doing SEO for about 12,000 websites over there. Before I left, the company actually got sold for $997 million, which was a very, very exciting time, especially for Burlington, being a town of 60,000 people. That was one of our first real big kind of tech IPOs to really pop. And so a lot of my experience is really on like scalable SEO. So, how can we take best practices about what we know is good to go into websites, and how can we scale that up to doing it on 9,000 websites, without having to hire 9,000 people to actually fulfill those roles. Before that, I worked at an agency. I was kind of a jack of all trades there, doing account management, digital marketing stuff, local, shooting videos, doing client consultations, and a slew of other stuff before that. If you'd like to, feel free to friend me on LinkedIn or Twitter. It's Jonathan B as in boy Wilson on Twitter, and then it's just Jonathan B Wilson on LinkedIn. So as you guys are kind of thinking about different career opportunities, obviously we have a good relationship with Stout. So if you do want to establish that connection, obviously before you graduate, feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to meet more people online and kind of expand each other's networks. So enough about me. What I'm going to do is get into our deck right now. So for the agenda, what I wanted to do was talk through breaking it up into two parts, really, a social part and a video part. The social, some of the more recent changes that I wanted to talk about was related to privacy. I want to talk about some changes in social reach. And by social reach, I mean the amount of people or audience that you can actually reach through social media has been shifting pretty dramatically over, I would say, the last 18 months, and even quicker over the last 3 or 4 months. So I want to talk through that, and then also talk through native advertising, which I'll define later on. And for the video stuff, I was just going to go into the changing landscape of video. For me, it's a really, really exciting medium because it evolves so quickly. And then finally, I was just going to talk about how democratic video has become and will continue to become in the future. So relating to social privacy, this actually is another company from Burlington, Vermont. You guys might have heard about it. It's called ELO, or ELO, short for hello. And it's garnered a lot of press, and it's been a very exciting social media platform that's gotten a lot of users and really had an explosive growth since launching over this summer. The main selling point, which you can kind of see in the top left there, is that it's simple, beautiful, and ad-free. The reason why this social network is a little bit more phenomenal in terms of its growth than a lot of other social upstarts is really about that ad-free portion. And I see that as a bigger shift overall with social networks, is that users are starting to get tired of their typical Facebook feed, right? So when you pop into Facebook, on the right-hand column, there's all those ads. There's actually ads inside of the content. There's sponsored posts. And so that's not, the reason why we go to a social network, right? We go to a social network so we can see pictures of our friends, newborn babies, or, to see what our siblings are doing, over the weekend. We don't go there necessarily to be bombarded by advertisements and really hyper-targeted advertisements. And so, consumers are starting to feel that advertisement fatigue. And so kind of out of that need, a lot of different services are cropping up that are going to really be focused on privacy, minimizing advertisements. And so I was going to talk through a few different platforms that do that. So with ELO, it's just elo.com or .co, excuse me. You can actually request an invitation now if it's something you'd be interested in toying around. I do think that there are some drawbacks to ELO. As you can see in this picture, it looks like the main demographic is graphic designers with beards. And I think to go a little bit more mainstream, they're going to have to really expand the scope and the appeal of what they're able to provide to people. But the amount of press that they've been getting, really shows that there's a big desire to have a social media platform where you're not getting bombarded with ads all the time. This is a more granular view into what the LO kind of interface looks like. From my opinion, maybe not the strongest right now. I feel like there's maybe too much white space. But as you can see, right, there's no advertisements. It's literally you go to someone's page and it's everything that they want to talk about. There's no kind of sidebar or banner running across. It's really, really focused on being ad free. One thing I forgot to mention, I think when I started, if you guys do have any questions or anything's confusing as I'm talking through it, definitely feel free to interrupt me. I'm just going to use this kind of as a spine, but if we need to go on to tangents, I'm more than open to doing that as well.
Hey, Jonathan, if you open the chat window, then that's where we've traditionally been, when you're talking, they can type questions, so it doesn't interrupt you so that you can then go on.
Okay.
And so you can see that there's sort of a sidebar conversation going on behind you. A couple of us have requested LO accounts and haven't gotten them, but that's not that important.
Yep.
So I'm going to let you go on.
Sure. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's actually, thanks for letting me know that. I had my the camera actually in front of the lower left, and so that helps. Using LO, I've really just toyed around with it right now. I'm in the same stage right now where I'm waiting for an invitation for it. I did pop over the shoulder. There's a couple folks here who actually did get their invitation, they got accepted. Their invitation request got accepted. And it's really not too different from what you can see as even a non-user just by going to the website and clicking through people's profiles. There's a few extra features. You can obviously add people into your network. You can comment on people's posts. But even as you go there without having to sign in, you can still see those functionalities. You just can't really play with it. So I looked over the shoulder for 5 minutes, and it's not really that different than what you would expect. If it was just a very, very clean version of Facebook, right? You can still make content, updates. You can comment on other people's stuff. One thing that's kind of unique is that it tracks how many people are viewing, the different posts that you have up. So you can kind of get some instant feedback of what type of stuff people are interested in and engaged in, and what type of stuff people are just glossing over. But apart from that, I haven't really seen anything that's too dramatic right now. Again, they're kind of in a beta stage, and so they've been adding features slowly. And so my hope is that by the time we all do get our accepted ELO, a month or two down the line, that maybe they'll have a little more features. But right now, it's pretty basic and not that different from the kind of version that we would see as non-members. Have they disclosed how they make revenue? Nope. And that's one of the funny things that has a lot of Wall Street analysts very skeptical. There's actually a parody site called Audi. It's instead of howdy, right? Hello and howdy. And it's just making fun of that exact fact, right? It's like, yeah, it's really easy to have an online platform that has seed funding of $10 million and you can make it free. But what happens when you have to scale up to, 900 million users? How are you going to be able to pay for all those server farms, developers, people to upkeep, without having some sort of way to generate revenue? So I'm personally pretty skeptical on the ad-free format. I think it's something really similar to what we saw with Instagram. When Instagram first rolled out, it was an ad-free format, and it was really exciting. And then, they got purchased by Facebook, and then all of a sudden we saw ads kind of popping up in that Instagram feed. And my hunch is that we're going to see the same thing with LO, is that the kind of hook is that it's ad free. But once they hit that critical mass and they need some sort of income to kind of validate its existence, I could see them transition over to revenue. But yeah, right now there's no real disclosure on how they make revenue. And I think they're actually, they're just kind of burning through money right now. But they did just get I think a $10 million boost within the last couple of weeks. So they have venture capitalists, who are putting money at it. But ultimately, it's very rare that a venture capitalist is going to be doing this out of the goodness of their heart, right? They're going to want to see some sort of return on investment. So how they actually do monetize this is yet to be seen. Actually, I take that back. There is one thing that I did read about. They were talking about getting revenue attached to having users pay for premium features. So right now, again, if we were to toy around, there's not really that many features. There's not that much that you can do with it. But the goal in the future, again, it's got to hit that critical mass first, but then they'll charge users for certain things. So kind of taking a similar model to LinkedIn, like how LinkedIn is a free site, and you can purchase LinkedIn Premium, which allows you to do a few more things on the social platform. Elo is also toying with those ideas. Obviously it hasn't been instituted yet, but there's also been kind of discussions about moving to a freemium model, where it's free, but then you pay that premium for additional features. What those features are going to be, I haven't heard anything yet, but that's to be seen. Any other questions about Elo? I know it's still pretty new, the service overall. Great. So let me just click back real quick. So some other things. So Snapchat has been getting a lot of press, especially over the summer, right? So Snapchat kind of positioned itself as a not anonymous, but private way to send messages between people, whether those messages are, video, photographs, or actual, text, but keeping it private, and then they automatically delete. And so users are able to look at them for a short period of time, and then they delete out. And then if someone, you do send a message to, if they were to screenshot it, you get a notification from it. So on screen, those are just a couple snapshots. One is from the actual Snapchat marketing literature that they had, and then on the right where it says "too big for my back pocket," that's an example, of a Snapchat. And so you would see that pop up on your phone, and then it would delete in a few seconds. So in the same way, Snapchat kind of comes out of that need or desire to be able to send messages to people that don't last forever, that have some sort of termination date. I mean, that was the original reason for Snapchat. But then what we saw is that that's not really what happened, right? And so if you just look at some of these article headlines that we have up, how to screenshot Snapchat without sending notifications, different apps that allow you to grab images, Gizmodo running articles. And so, the original desire, right, was to have something that self-destructed, within 10 seconds, but then a whole kind of cottage industry jumped out of different ways that we can save those snaps for people. And so as a result, over the summer, we had 98,000 Snapchat photos were hacked. So a lot of those third-party tools that you would use to save your snap, what they were doing was actually collecting it. So it wasn't just that you were saving your friend's snap on your own phone for posterity. It's also that service that you were using was saving that information as well. And then once those third-party services got hacked, then the end result is almost 100,000 Snapchat photos were all kind of posted online. Most of them were pretty banal, but people do send some kind of R-rated stuff, right? And so all that is posted online. And so it shows that people do want to have some sort of way to have social privacy, but it also needs to be balanced with making sure that that's secure on the back end, right? Even if it deletes from someone's phone, if it's still in a mega database from a third party, this isn't really, social privacy as it was maybe promised to users. So that's something just to keep in mind, just generally. with any kind of new technology, especially as you're becoming an early adopter and maybe getting on it, before it reaches a critical mass, is always be wary of those type of promises because, as we've seen with Snapchat, it can change pretty quickly, and some really sensitive information can get out there and really distributed to pretty much everyone on the internet. Also related to Snapchat, initially, right, it was an ad-free format, kind of in the same way as Ello. Again, hitting on those privacy hot buttons issue, having no advertising, making it, self-destruct after a while. And 2 days ago, November 4th? Yeah, 2 days ago, Snapchat's announced that they're going to be adding a new ad type to the platform. So again, it's kind of that logical progression, right? As you start with a free website, then all of a sudden venture capitalists need money somehow, and so then the advertisements come. So that's what I'm foreshadowing is going to happen with Ello. I mean, maybe they'll have that freemium model instead, but when there's a lot of eyeballs, advertisers want to spend money, and generally a pretty prudent business person would say, okay, yeah, run those ads. Let's get some revenue coming in. So I would say, over this summer and then into fall, Snapchat has had a pretty dramatic transition in what it maybe originally was positioned as versus the reality of the service now, that it's not really as private as we thought, and then, ads are going to be on its way. So I'm also really interested to see if it remains being such a sticky application. Like as they get more and more advertisements and as people are less secure or feel less secure, with the information that they're sharing, are people still going to use it, or are they just going to shift to a different platform? Any questions or anything about Snapchat or any of the kind of newer developments there? Great.
We'll treat that as a no.
Okay. And so finally, what I wanted to, again, on the social privacy portion is, I think we got a question. Let me just click it open real quick. Yeah, so that's exactly right. What Samuel wrote, right? Similar to Facebook, once you got that captive audience, then you got to lay out that ad. And yeah, that's the progression that we just see more and more. And so I think it's almost funny now when people start with that position, because I feel like I've heard that same story for, the last 6 years or so. Especially like, same thing with Facebook started. And so, Kevin, what do you mean by an NPR type model?
Where they don't do advertising as such. There's like sponsors, this program sponsored by, but where the people who listen pay for the majority of the operations of National Public Radio.
Yeah, so like brought to you by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Less in your face.
Mm-hmm.
More brand advertising than content advertising.
Yeah, and I think that might be a really elegant solution to it, right? If like rather than an intense banner ad in your face or some kind of like very compelling call to action, it just says sponsored by X. Maybe making it even unclickable, just to provide that value. But yeah, that would be an interesting model. I didn't even think about that. Okay, so I'm going to read Jacob's real quick. This is not related to Snapchat yet. Does having a stagnant social media provide a negative impact as far as SEO is concerned? So in terms of like pure SEO, like how the search algorithm is written, with taking social media cues in, at least for Google doesn't really use social media cues, so Facebook or Twitter, in its overall algorithm. There is some speculation that Google Plus engagement is baked into that algorithm. We do know that Google Plus, like having an active Google Plus can be really helpful for local, but for actually making your website rank, it's not as important. But still to the question, right? I think even looking beyond SEO, I think just from an overall branding standpoint, that having a stagnant social media platform or profile is a bad idea, right? Because users are going to want to have some sort of engagement. If you see a Twitter for a specific brand and you're having a really poor or really good brand experience, right? You kind of want to, take the photo, tweet at them, right? Had a great day in my new Ford or something like that. If Ford isn't responding to you, there's really no reason for them to be there. Like if you're not being social in social media, it's like the same as going to a party and just, kind of standing in the corner with your arms crossed, nursing your beer facing a wall, right? It's you're at the party, but you're not really providing any value. So definitely, if your company wants to do it just because they feel like they should, I think you're exactly right with advising them to stay away from that. If they see that there could be some value created from a different platform, and they're committed to putting the right resources in place so that there's consistent content that you guys are pushing out, or that you're creating conversations with other people within your network and building the awareness of your brand, then I feel like it's a great idea. But you're exactly right. Like we've all gone to those Facebook pages that haven't been updated since 2013, and it's like, why would I like this? Why would I follow this? They're not really providing any value or anything sticky to make me want to interact with the brand or kind of keep them top of mind. So Brett says, thinking of Snapchat as a social network since it only allows private messaging, is narrow broadcasting like that impacting SEO? So the reason I just think of it as a social network is because you can still send, even though they are private messages, you can still send them to a group of people. It doesn't just have to be mano a mano, one person to one person. You can send group Snapchats. And so in that way, it's still a social network insofar that it's social. It's just that the privacy is different. Even if we were to think of way back when to the MySpace days, right? That was kind of like the most open, where everyone could kind of see everyone else's profile, nothing was private. Then MySpace added, privacy filter, and that was pretty big, right? Just to be able to make it so certain people couldn't see your profile unless they added you as friends. And I feel like Snapchat, it's still a social network, but it's just the kind of logical extension of that, where the default is that everything is super private, but if you want to build that social network, you can still do that. It's just that there's more steps and it's not kind of baked in to it as well. Is narrow broadcasting like that impacting SEO? No, I mean, I guess if I'm understanding the question correctly, and correct me if I'm, answering it in like not to your actual question, but I don't feel like narrow broadcasting is really impacting SEO too much, because SEO is really focused on what can actually be crawled by the website, right? So Google has crawlers that go to the website, understand what the content is, bring it back to a database, and then when someone searches for it, again, it recalls from that database what's the most relevant result, and then they serve it to a user. So if you're doing this narrow broadcasting model or super private social model, I don't know if it's really impacting SEO. I think it's just not even taken into consideration, because if the search engines can't crawl it, they can't serve those results. So there's kind of limited utility in adopting any of these platforms like Snapchat, for SEO purposes. That's not really going to help you there. One of the advantages, though, is that that's not the goal, right? Is the goal is you can, even as a brand, use Snapchat for your super users, right? People who are really obsessed with your brand, and push out content to them that might be exclusive, that you might not find on a company's Twitter or Facebook or their LinkedIn profile or whatever other platforms they use. Do all social networks have an equal importance when it comes to optimizing social? Seems like Google Business and Facebook have a greater impact. Oh, and I'm glad I answered the question. So I would say, like so when I look at social networks, I think of them just as a tool, right? And so just like a hammer can be used to kind of build a house, or it can be used to, break up a house, depending on how you use it. Social networks are the same way. And so I'm always weary to endorse one kind of across the board. I think you are spot on with saying that Google Business and Facebook have larger impacts because they have larger audiences. Google Business doesn't really have a huge built-in audience, but because everyone's using Google products, that, by extension, and uses Google search, by extension, like Google social media gets bumped up. But really, when evaluating which social media tools are appropriate either for an individual, business, organization, governmental agency, whatever, I would really look at like what are the goals of the organization, and then looking at what platform would be the most appropriate for that. So let me try to think of an example. So even that LO service, so I think if I just jump back, I can actually see it, that there are a few brands that are on LO, but they're not. Yeah. So if you look at the bottom, how there's that B right there, it's a bicycle company. It's called Budnitz Bicycles, which is also based in Burlington, Vermont. And for Budnitz, LO makes sense as a platform. Budnitz they're really expensive bicycles. They're like these $13,000 bicycles that only a certain demographic of person can even afford, much less want to spend essentially like a car payment on a bicycle. But given the target demographic of LO, right, a bunch of kind of like rich, yuppie graphic designers with beards, that's a perfect fit for them. So for Budnitz Bicycle, it might actually make more sense for them to be on LO versus being on Google Business, for instance. Conversely, you have your mega brands like Montesano. Montesano on Facebook, probably going to be a tougher sell, right? Even though there's a huge potential audience there, there's also a lot of people who are really passionate about the kind of services, GMO stuff, and you're just going to have a lot of people just hating on the service, and all your comments are going to be negative, and you're going to get this really like high engagement, but really low levels of positive engagement. And so, maybe for Montesano, that's not the most appropriate brand for them to use. And so really with any social media platform, when you're thinking of impact, you got to think about goals, you got to think about what your audience is, and then, kind of make the decision whether or not to go with that. Snapchat, a lot of the users are in high school. And so if you're kind of a hipper brand focused on like a tween to, kind of 22, maybe like 13 to 22-year-old demographic, Snapchat makes sense. So Burton Snowboards on Snapchat, that makes sense given the demo, or a skateboard company on Snapchat, that makes sense. But then, with LinkedIn, right, you wouldn't want to necessarily be trying to push skateboards on LinkedIn because most of the people on it are 44 years old and plus. So those are just a couple examples of where, when you're optimizing for social, like don't just do Facebook because it's got the most people. Do Facebook because it actually makes sense, for your actual platform. So Sam says, is Google looking more at content to rank sites? Richer information should be placed closer to the top of a search. Yes, they are looking for content, but with that definition of content, it's always going to change, or not change, but I guess evolve. Early internet content was strictly just words on a page. Now, search engines are smart enough, if you're using the appropriate kind of markup, using schema.org or semantic markup, you can say, hey, this is a video, even though the search engines can't watch a video and understand what it's about. You can put the whole transcript about the video in there. And so, in some instances, having just a video marked up well, it's going to outrank, that 4,000 word article, especially if it's like a how-to, right? I don't necessarily want to read a how-to on how to fix a watch. I'd rather just watch a video and then just pause at the right parts and kind of follow along as I'm doing that. But yes, I guess the short answer, Samuel, is yes. Google is looking at content. as one of the most primary things in how they're ranking sites. I would say content and authority are the two most important things. So, what's the quality of the actual content that you're providing? And then also, what's the authority of the person that's building that content, right? So if I write about black holes, even if it's really long and it's like well researched and it's okay, I'm still going to lose out to Stephen Hawking every time, right? If he has his own blog on black holes, he's the authority. People are going to be linking to it. Google's going to understand people are linking to it because he's the most authoritative person on the topic. And if he has lots of content, that's going to make him kind of push to the top of the search results. So, content and authority are the two kind of big buckets that I would encourage people to make sure they check off when optimizing for a website, even before you start getting into the kind of geeky SEO stuff of, optimizing H1 tags and a little bit of more nerd stuff. So do Google bots crawl Facebook group discussions or private messages? To my understanding, with private messages, emphatic no, they cannot do that. Group discussions, I think, and just to make sure that I'm talking about the right types of group discussions, so you can do like private messages with a lot of people. And so that type of group discussion, again, because it kind of falls into the private message bucket, search engines are not able to crawl that. Certain pages will show up in Google search if they are public and up for a really long time. And even then, depending on the individual's privacy settings, not everything that's posted, even on that public page necessarily, will be able to be crawled overall. So generally, Google does not work that well with Facebook. Facebook also has a vested interest in preventing Google from crawling all of their content. Facebook has come out and said that, not right now, but their future plan is to really improve the Facebook search. So when you're actually in Facebook, being able to search for things. And so if they let Google kind of crawl everything and index everything, like no one's going to ever use that Facebook search, right? Because we're all just so pre-programmed to kind of use Google. So there's a bit of an adversarial relationship between those two companies. So I think we'll continue to see that most of the content isn't going to be searched well. And so as a follow-up, what about Google Plus? Yes. They definitely crawl that Google Plus content, and they crawl it quickly. I've made posts on Google Plus, and I think that they were indexed in the search engine within like 3 minutes. And I don't know if I just posted it right at the right time when the kind of crawlers were going through, but because it's a Google entity and there's no like business interest not to share information, they'll definitely crawl whatever information you put on Google Plus if your privacy settings are set a certain way. So I think if you have all your settings too private, it won't show those search results. But if you have a public page or you have a business page, for instance, they'll definitely crawl that content. Any other questions so far? Great. So I'll just jump back in. So just real quickly, Yik Yak. So this was made by college students. The main kind of users demographic is college students for Yik Yak. And what it is, it's an anonymous way to just broadcast ideas to no one in particular. It's just everyone that has the Yik Yak app is going to see the exact same stuff. And so I have a kind of screenshot here, but it's a live feed of just everything that everyone's saying, right? So it's just the chatter that's kind of going on in the ether around you. And it's gotten, a lot of visibility at a lot of schools. And so, here's some examples, right? I tried to FaceTime campus police last night, and people will upvote it, and it'll push higher, and then they'll downvote it, and it might get like hidden, right? So that's kind of a way to kind of safeguard against, like hate speech or things that are kind of inappropriate, is that if a lot of people are downvoting it, then that stuff, gets subverted and pushed down. And they've gotten a lot of traction over this summer. But then there's also, again, right, they're saying that it's an anonymous app because if we switch back, you see how there's no, kind of name or profile or anything you can click through related to that. But then, of course, right, once again, the same theme with social privacy is it's not really that private. So over the summer, Penn State university student made some threats on the Yik Yak app, right? Thinking it's completely anonymous. I'm just going to, do some threatening things about my school. It'll be in the ether. No one will be able to trace it back to me because it's a completely anonymous app, right? That's how they're leveraging it. But that's not the case. That data is still getting saved somewhere. Might not be available to all users, but on the back end, there is some database that is saving this information. And so, yeah, if you do bad things, it'll come back to you. And that's exactly right. Yeah, it's just like Reddit, right, with upvotes and downvotes. That's exactly right. The only difference, right, is with Reddit you can kind of go into / movies or something. Whereas with the Yik Yak, it's literally, it would be like everyone at Reddit all on one giant Reddit feed with no kind of like nested things and no video. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, / all. So again, this is just 2 days ago. So I guess this is a pretty good week or interesting week, I guess, in terms of social media privacy. Is that Facebook announced that they were going to use Tor, and essentially what that is the dark web. And so what it does is it uses a collection of different servers to kind of anonymize, where different posts are coming from. And so normally that's something that's used on kind of, sketchier websites, right? Even dark web kind of has this like, very scary, connotation to it. And so it's really interesting that, the biggest player basically in the social media game, Facebook, is going to be venturing into using Tor and understanding how we can anonymize more and more user data. And again, I think that development is a direct response, right, to seeing the boost that we've gotten with Snapchat, with Elo, Yik Yak, and other services. People are clamoring for more social privacy. They don't want everything to be transmitted to my mother, who I'm friends with on Facebook, and so Facebook is also understanding that. So the feature hasn't rolled out yet. Yeah, so think Facebook going on Tor will be a trend or just a fad. I don't know. I'm interested to see. Like for me personally, like I don't care because I'm too boring. I have a kind of 9-to-5 job, and so there's nothing that I need to hide on the dark web. But maybe for nefarious teenagers, which again, right, that's the target demo for a lot of social media platforms. If that's what they want and that's what they care about, then it could be a long-term trend. There might just be a generational difference where I'm not really doing anything bad, so I don't care if people see my stuff. But for like an angsty 18-year-old, being able to use Facebook and still be anonymous could be a really sticky feature that keeps them engaging with Facebook as they get older and mature, rather than just abandoning it and jumping ship for Snapchat or some other service that's able to provide that more anonymous social network situation. And it will also be interesting. One thing I was just thinking about, even with this picture, is that you can see that there's some sort of Asian writing, but I'm interested to see if that will make it easier for people in countries where communication is more highly regulated by the government, like thinking of China, right? That China blocks a lot of websites from being served to users. If going with Tor and adopting this dark web will allow Facebook to expand, a little bit easier into the Chinese market. There's, I think, over 1 billion people in China now, or very close to it. So that represents a huge market, right? But there's governmental standards kind of standing in the way of that. And so Facebook's able to kind of get around that government regulation by making a dark web so that users can be communicating with each other. And it's not instantly something that the government can track back to an individual, that just opens up a whole new marketplace for them, right? A billion sets of eyeballs additional that they can start serving ads to. You can just kind of extrapolate out financially how much that would be worth. So I do think that people will do it in the future, but yeah, I don't know if it's going to be widespread and catch on like wildfire, or if it's going to be really limited to the smaller demographic of domestic people who want to tour, or if it's something that's going to be kind of worldwide. So that's why working in this industry is fun, right? Because we can all make educated guesses, but gotta just wait and see. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I agree 100%. Right? Is like being anonymous is dark or like bad, right? It's like maybe being anonymous is okay. There is kind of some kind of safety in anonymity, but yeah, it's just a whole kind of conceptual mind shift for people too. I mean, as much as it is, right, how everyone kind of made fun of Facebook when it first started, just having like, a social network where you could just post your kind of ideas, like that was a big kind of mental shift. And then I think that is another mental shift, right, to be able to go, a little bit more anonymous and kind of, decrease accountability maybe for certain comments and things like that. One of the bad byproducts though, and I think, I can see where the dark web comes, is because a lot of people who want completely anonymous stuff are doing kind of sketchy things a lot of the times too. And so I can definitely see how that happens, for sure. It looks like we got one more question typing, so I'll just hold off on the presentation for a second. If not, I'll go. Cool. Okay, so I'll just keep going. So another larger trend with social media that I'm seeing is social reach kind of decreasing. And so by social reach, again, I just mean the number of people that get your certain message. And so just kind of 101 kind of supply and demand, right, is that that kind of sweet spot in that bottom left is when supply and demand are kind of neck and neck, right? So people are posting the right amount of things, and you have the right amount of free time that you can use to actually look at it. And that was probably Facebook maybe 3 or 4 years ago. But now that like literally everyone and their parents are on Facebook, what we find is when we go into it, there's this endless kind of stream of stuff that happens, right? And we just don't have time to look at every single one of your 200 or 400 1,000 friends on Facebook. You can't look at every single thing that they post. It's just too much. It's overwhelming. And so what we've seen is that social platforms are starting to work on filtering those most important messages. And so here's just a diagram real quick of content creation. And as we can see, in 2014 and then the estimate for 2015, this huge spike in the amount of content that's created and shared. And not all this content is, like really well-researched college paper. A lot of it's just like, it's like food photos. Or, when you go to a concert, you look around and you see like 100 different people all filming the same kind of mediocre concert. Like that's still content, and it's still taking up bandwidth and taking up people's time, but the value for that is kind of decreasing, right? It's no longer novel. Everyone is filming at the thing, and so then what we've seen as a result is this is a little graph of the average organic reach for content published on brand Facebook pages. As you see, there's that big decrease going down, for all pages going from 12% down to 8%. And then pages with over 500,000 likes, we're seeing it basically cut in half from 4% to 2%. And part of that is because it's becoming so cluttered, right? As we see this huge uptick in the amount of content that's been created by users and brands, etc., we don't have the bandwidth to be able to consume it all. And so Facebook has upgraded its algorithm so that it's showing less and less content to users. And so that's why there's more things about, sponsored posts. So now paying to make sure that everyone that follows your brand actually sees your updates. And that's a pretty significant change too, even versus 5-10 years ago, with social media networks, with kind of everything going on. There's one question real quick. So this is probably a tangent, but I believe your ISP will always know where you're going unless you use foreign or anonymous VPN, then using Tor. And I don't know too much about the dark web because, again, like I don't use it personally. And then from a business standpoint, we don't really use it, right? But my understanding is that a Tor, what it does is like, you set, like normally you would just ping from your IP address to a server. And so it's, Jonathan Wilson in Egan is at this IP address and I'm pinging, Facebook XYZ. And so that way they're able to kind of push it back to me. Tor is a little different because you use Tor as your kind of first layer, and then Tor will push it to multiple IP addresses, and then all access that information, then go through the Tor back to your personal computer. And so that way you can't really track it back because there's not one IP address. There might be like 400 IP addresses. Oh yeah, there we got Tor project right there. Very nice, very nice. Yeah, but I do think there is lots of opportunity around kind of that anonymity, and it is interesting just to see that getting more and more popular as that happens. And so Facebook. So this is actually from the product manager in Facebook. So talking about that trend, right, of having less and less reach with those Facebook posts that you get. Like I've even noticed myself is that now I don't see certain updates from certain friends. I have to kind of change the setting to make sure I'm alerted to things that I actually care about, right? I'm a little bit more interested in what my family's doing than just kind of random person from high school that I haven't seen in 14 years. But anyway, as you can see this quote, and I won't read the whole thing, but essentially, right, he's saying that, we're seeing this huge uptick in content. And so, they've had to adjust that news feed to make sure that you're only seeing the content that's more relevant to you. So that's a pretty interesting development in Facebook and the way that news feed algorithm works. And it's also funny to see how there's certain companies that are able to game that system. Oh man, I'm totally blanking on the website. Oh, never mind. I won't use that example. But yeah, there are certain websites that were creating really low quality clickbait content that was doing really well in the newsfeed, and so Facebook keeps on slightly adjusting the way the newsfeed works so that only the most relevant kind of quality content shows up. Oh, BuzzFeed. That's who I had to Google it real quick. BuzzFeed was that company, right? If you guys remember, in the spring, BuzzFeed was doing really, really well. A lot of the content that they were showing, and it was like, the titles were always 10 crazy things about jet skis that'll blow your mind, or these like really dramatic kind of titles that people would click through. And because people were clicking through to it, they had huge click-through rates. Facebook was like, okay, people are clicking through it, this is good content. But then what happens, right, that 10 crazy things about jet skis, it ends up being pretty banal. Like it has a very misleading title. You click through the page and it's just a bunch of ads, not useful. And so Facebook is constantly rejiggering it, and so that's why you're seeing less and less of those really clickbaity BuzzFeed type articles in your newsfeed versus what you might have been seeing 6 months ago, where I feel like half of my newsfeed was just those BuzzFeed articles. 5 wild celebrity photos you won't believe. Yeah, Kevin, I will not miss those BuzzFeed articles either. They were definitely catering to a lowest common denominator. They almost felt like those cheesy banner ads, right? It's like 10 secret weight loss tips that'll blow your mind, and then you'd click through and it's just like a bunch of ads and really sketchy. So I guess, yeah, moving away from the social portion, I want to talk to a few changes in the video landscape as well. And so we've seen the entrance of a few more platforms. I know that the video that Dan Rasmussen put together was really focused a lot on YouTube because they're kind of the 800-pound gorilla. But what we've also seen is that there's newer competitors that are getting tons and tons and tons of users because they're focused on different demographics and different markets. So earlier, when I was answering one of the questions was about, what's the best social media platform for a business, right? Whether it's Facebook or Google Plus. And my answer was kind of like, well, you got to kind of modulate to, who your audience is, what their demographic is, and then kind of go where those people are. Don't just, go to Facebook for its own sake. The same thing, applies to video, is that YouTube is the one that's getting the lion's share of the traffic, but there's a lot of other opportunities to kind of cut through that clutter. And to be in a less competitive environment where brands, if they use it correctly, can really stand out. So one of those is Vine. So Vine is a online, essentially social media video sharing platform. But all the videos are, I want to say 7 seconds. I always get Instagram and Vine mixed up, but I think they're 7 seconds, maybe 6-second clips, and that's all they got. And so there's some brands that are doing awesome on Vine, and they're getting millions of people engaging with their brands, doing targeted advertisements. So Vine has kind of curated a collection of super users that have, million plus followers. So really savvy brands realize like, okay, we know that every one of, this one actress's videos, these 6-second clips, gets a million people watching it. Why don't we send her $10,000 in a bag of Doritos, and she can make a 6-second video that involves Doritos. All of a sudden, you're running an ad on a platform, and you're getting all those eyeballs on Doritos that you might not have if you were just to make a straight typical Doritos corporate video. Also, Vine is skewing a little bit younger, and so demographic-wise, if you're focused on that really fickle 13 to 24 demo, Vine can be, really useful in that respect. Vimeo is another video site, much like YouTube, but Vimeo is a little bit more lenient in their standards of what they allow. So YouTube is very, I don't want to say very, but they're pretty conservative and responsive of what type of content can be put on there and what type of stuff gets taken down, whether it's offensive or might have a certain type of speech. Vimeo, on the other hand, is a lot more liberal with that, and so you'll find a little bit more kind of like progressive, avant-garde video related stuff on Vimeo versus what you would find on YouTube. Again, the demographic between the two is going to be a little bit different. And so certain brands, again, really successful on Vimeo, YouTube and Vine might not work for them. Yeah, definitely standards in YouTube.
Yeah, I've been running my YouTube channel for a couple of years, and I just want to let everybody know that the 2 videos from this week are the first time that I've got copyright knocks against my YouTube channel because Dan Rasmussen ran YouTube videos in the middle of both of those videos, and so that's copyright infringement. So you may have noticed when you were watching the videos, I know one of them at least has been monetized by some entity other than myself, and so they're playing ads on it, and that revenue from those ads is going to whoever owned that piece of YouTube, the YouTube clip that he ran in the middle of mine. So those are the first 2 hits that I've ever had for copyright infringement, and so I'll actually end up probably either taking down or editing those 2 videos to regain my sullied name. So they've got a standard. They're pretty strict about their copyright standards at least, and they've got really good algorithms to catch what you're doing. I've been caught but not flagged before for as little as 5 or 10 seconds of background audio, and so you have to either say, well, that's okay or not. But this was just blatant copyright infringement.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. My understanding is that the software that they use to figure out like the copyrighted content is really similar to what you would use with Shazam. So Shazam is an app where you hit listen and you can put it up next to like a song or a speaker playing, and then within about 5 or 10 seconds, it'll return to you. Okay, this is the song that you were listening to. Similarly with YouTube, what it does is every video that's uploaded has a certain kind of like sound pattern, right? As people are talking, it's getting like louder and it's softer, and there's different pitches. And then what it's going to do is if it sees a pitch pattern that matches a previous pitch pattern, that's how it's going to know. Exactly. It is the math. It's going to know that, this is 14, pitch 14, 19, and 22, in this session means that it's this song. And really interesting, just to see like what all the kind of nerdy math kids grew up to be able to do. Like unreal, right? To be able to identify copyrighted material in 5 seconds on every single video of the like billions of videos that are on YouTube, be able to identify it like that. It's pretty astounding. Vine definitely does not do that. Vine is like all about again, it's only 6 seconds, but I don't want to say it's all about, but like a big focus really is on stealing that content. I created a short video for class using public domain music. Yeah, exactly. They really put the onus now on the person uploading the video to it's up to us almost to prove that this isn't something that's been stolen or that it's copyrighted. And so, of course, people are going to want to get away from that, and that's where maybe some of these other platforms might be a little bit more useful. For instance, if you're a musician and you do mashups where you take samples from certain copyrighted music and put them together artfully, in YouTube you're going to get spanked super quick. Or if you make fan videos where you take your favorite artist and you shoot your own video and put their music under it, again you're going to get spanked. That video is either going to be silent or it's going to get taken down, or they're going to kind of like send you a cease and desist type letter. Whereas I don't think Vimeo does that. Vine definitely does that. And so again, kind of depending on what your art is or what your goal is or why you're creating these videos, it's important to be really thoughtful about which platform that you're using. The final one is Twitch, which I have there, and this is super specialized on video gamers. Which again, right? Think about your audience. If you're someone who's making wrist guards for people who play World of Warcraft for 14 hours per day, running ads on Twitch is probably going to get you in front of the right eyeballs rather than running ads on YouTube or trying to get an embedded video that's on Vine. Yep, and that's exactly right. Yeah, Twitch is going to get purchased by Amazon, and I forget what the purchase amount is, but it's huge. What is it? 970 mil? Yeah. That's pretty unreal. Yeah, close to $1 billion, right? And again, it's just like, this is why I love this industry, right? Because it's 20 years ago, playing video games, people were like, oh, this is a waste of time. This stuff doesn't matter. Nobody cares about this. And then all of a sudden, you have you have a service that's videos of people playing video games, and it got sold for almost $1 billion. Like, that's something that was not even fathomable in the like mid 90s. And now it's like a reality. Pretty crazy. I did not see the League of Legends World Champions. I would be interested I'm going to write that down. I'll Google it later. But I have watched some of the World Series of video gaming events, and it's pretty insane just to see like hundreds of thousands of people watching this stuff live. Yeah, filled a Korean FIFA stadium, right? So like being as big as soccer, that's something that my mom, when telling me to get off my Sega Genesis back in the day, probably would not have predicted that video gaming would ever be that big. you had $1 million, right? And so now people are literally pros. Before it was like you're throwing your life away playing video games. Now it's like, you might be a millionaire, depending on how good you are. Uh, Definitely a big seismic shift, across that. There, I agree. I think that Samuel. I think that that's a larger kind of conceptual message. But yeah, I agree. Way too much free money floating around to buy very ridiculous things. But that's what the whole internet's on. Yeah. And so, Kevin, I'm sure tons of people are into it too. They probably love just watching that, the videos of him playing, old Pokemon stuff. So there's the question. Ads on social media sites or Google will only work if users do not use extensions on their browser that hide, remove ads. Um, I Yes, I think generally yes. I think that there are certain ads that will get through that filter, but people can use extensions to hide that. But again, as so first thing, like someone's going to build a social media platform, then they're going to put ads on it. Then a developer is going to develop something so you don't see that ads. Then the social media platform is going to develop a new format of ads so that you can't block it. And that's actually a really good segue into native advertising, because native advertising is it's advertising that's like really hard, almost impossible to block. So native, here's the definition, it's paid content that matches a publication's editorial standards while meeting the audience's expectations. So this, for instance, this showed up on my Instagram feed. I don't follow Ben and Jerry's, so that's why that follow option is highlighted right here. But this is just an ad that came up in my Facebook feed, and so there's no extension that would be smart enough, really. I mean, maybe if it was able to take the context that it was sponsored and be able to maybe draw a line there. But currently, there's no real way to block out those advertisements that are in the middle of your stream. Instead, they block out those banner ads along the side or banner ads along the top. And so native advertisement, right, is that new layer on top. How can we still be serving advertisements to people who obviously don't want to see ads and are downloading, extensions on their browsers to actually, block those ads? And it's by doing, things like this, in-ad advertisements. Even if you go on New York Times, like if you go on the NewYorkTimes.com website, sometimes you'll see, in Forbes does this, Forbes.com does this a ton. You'll see these like fluff articles, right? It'll be about, like on Forbes, I just read an article and it was about Soulja Boy, the rapper, coming out with a new app. And then it's got a link to the app. And even though they make it look exactly like an article, it's got the same kind of headline, same content that you would read in a legitimate Forbes article. All it is just a thinly veiled advertisement for Soulja Boy. But there's no way to really block that advertisement because, like, the article is an advertisement. And so, yeah, native advertisement is the kind of the newest way. And I'm sure that, in a year or two, there's probably going to be another ad extension that blocks native ads. And then, again, this is why the industry's so fun. They'll build something else, or hopefully you guys will build something else, that'll help them serve ads or block it. Yeah, and for like users like me, again, I don't really mind it so much. But even when when Instagram was rolling out these kind of sponsored stories that weren't as offensive or annoying as your typical ad, like there were tons and tons of get these ads off my feed. I don't want to see this. I'm going to cancel my account. Like a pretty big negative backlash. But I think more mature people understand that businesses do need to make money. So I'm completely fine getting my Ben and Jerry's advertisement every once in a while if it allows me to not have to pay to use the service, and then I'm getting value out of the service in a lot of other ways as well. I'm just going to see if I could pull up one of the. Or I might actually have a screenshot on. Oh, there we go. I'm just going to pull open just another example of native advertisement. This doesn't really have to do with the video as much, but I think just to the larger kind of concern that video isn't that good, or looks like it's not loading. I won't waste everyone's time while it loads. Okay. Cool. Sorry, I just had a technical difficulty. Give me 1 second. Okay. Cool. I gotta close it. Yeah, that's exactly right. Is those ad choices logo that shows it's a paid story, right? And us, being more savvy, taking classes in digital marketing or working in digital marketing, we're able to see that stuff really easily. But again, think about, a user like, my parents, for instance, right? Like they're not going to know that little ad choice logo means anything. To them, it's all content. It's all of the same value. And as users get more perceptive and just more used to this stuff, we'll be increasingly more able to identify, hey, this is an advertisement, which makes the job as a marketer, tougher, and there's more opportunities for creativity. How else can we start, increasing brand awareness, doing this as people become more and more kind of numb to getting served ads, whether they're native advertisements or it's, your traditional kind of just big banner ad flashing, 10 secret weight loss tips, with the picture of someone getting progressively skinnier in a little GIF. Is it required to show it's a paid ad? I think Congress tried to pass a law making it important to have some way to distinguish, whether there was paid ads. Because I remember there was a short time on Twitter where even if you had like a sponsored tweet, so, everyone follows, I don't know, Kim Kardashian, right? And so sometimes, she might post, hey, I got this awesome makeup, right? And the only reason that she's posting that tweet about the makeup is because Maybelline or whatever, gave her $40,000. And that's why she's posting about it. There's a short period where people were putting -- ad because of, a response to like a congressional law. But I don't think it's enforced because I've noticed that no one really does that anymore. There was like a 3-month period where people would call out whether it was a paid ad or a paid tweet, that someone's paying you to kind of post this content. And then, yeah, everyone stops. So I don't think it's required to show that it's a paid ad. I do think, though, it's a best practice for websites to show that it's a paid ad, because that's just part of making sure that users trust you, right? If you go to a website and it's really, really unclear of what's paid and what's, real organic, legitimate content, then users are going to be a little bit more skeptical, right? Because it's a bit of a bait and switch, right? I'm going here because I want to see good curated content, not stuff that people just paid for. And if advertisers aren't parsing those separately, the response is just going to be lower user engagement metrics. And so I don't think it's required, but I do think it's a lot of the times it's the best practice that if you have, a platform like that. But even on our own FindLaw websites, we have these things called top spots, right? And so you can get a lawyer directory, and the people who are kind of called out at the top, they're highlighted, but those people paid to be in those spots. And I don't think that there's anything calling out that it's paid. But that's how you get to that top of that directory, is you pay, X amount of dollars per month, and you're that first result. But yeah, like Google will call out advertisements, with like paid search, for instance. It says little search ads before it was highlighted, and that adjusts over time as well. So on the screen, I just have some other examples of, native advertising and some of the different services and ways you can do native advertising. So like iTunes, and that was something that occurred over the summer, is when the U2 was able to push all their new album to everyone that has iTunes. like that's 100% native advertising, right? Like there was a business agreement that we're going to push this free content to all users of iTunes from the cloud all at one time. It's not something we asked for. It's definitely not a traditional advertisement. It's not like, hey, here's YouTube. It's just that when you go and look at, what stuff is downloadable from your music library, all of a sudden you see that YouTube video. And that's exactly right, that it made a lot of people really, really angry. U2 actually came out, didn't brick people's iPods. Ooh, that would be very, very frustrating. YouTube even came out and apologized for that. I think Bono made a statement within the last couple of weeks, apologizing for kind of like literally cramming it down, everyone's throat in essence. But again, as we're kind of trying and experimenting with new ways of marketing, there's going to be these pretty epic kind of screw ups like we saw with U2. But I think there's still learnings that, hey, maybe if it was a little bit more focused, like if my whole iTunes library is, classical music, maybe I'm not the right person for, to be pushed to YouTube video. I think if they were able to target it a little bit better and also understand like what operating systems people were using to access their iTunes. So if you have an old iPod that, potentially bricks, let's not be pushing it to them. Let's only push it to people that have, like an iPhone 6 or something like that. And matching it, right? And so if I'm really into that U2 genre and I have 8 of their albums already, then I would be the person that, you should push to, but don't, just push across the board. That's just, that's spamming people, right? Not thinking about the user, just pushing it to everyone. And then, yeah, as a result, you get this kind of pushback. I love you have the Cheeseburger Network. Yeah, Cheeseburger Network's huge on native advertising. And I won't pull it just because my computer's kind of slow, and so I can't open up actual browsers. But yeah, Cheeseburger is essentially, it's a place to go for cats. Well, it's just like an internet meme database. So a lot of cats, a lot of Star Wars references, just generate geekery. But if you were to go to the site, and Travis, if you know the URL for Cheeseburger, could you just type it in for the folks if anyone were to look at it? But yeah, if any of you guys at home want to click through, and again, I won't do it live because it'll mess up my computer and stuff. But yeah, if you scroll down, it's really hard to distinguish between, okay, what's a legit, viral internet video that billions of people have watched because it's really good or funny or scary or compelling, and what of this content is just autoplay that Old Spice paid for, or Doritos paid for, or something like that. Again, another really good example of that kind of seamless advertising that a general user can't block because it's just kind of built into the overall kind of feed. And I think generally everything on Cheeseburger is safe for work too. But if anything says NSFW, like don't click it if you got kids or conservative adults near you. Just as a general rule of thumb if you haven't been on the website before. And so what I wanted to do was just close out real quick on video getting. Ooh, okay. So Samuel, I have in front of me a mailer from Google to get $100 of free ad credit if I pay for 25. Do advertisers that bid on more get high search placement? And so when you're saying bid on more, do you mean like do advertisers that have like a larger budget get higher search placement? Do you mean organic search, or do you mean like if you're willing to pay more for an ad, your ad goes up higher? Oh, perfect. Okay. Oh yeah, because Karen Hager's doing the whole PPC. Short note: there should not be a connection between doing PPC and the way organic search shows up, because Google doesn't necessarily want, or at least they don't want the impression from users like you and I that if you're running ads, that your organic listings will go up as well. Although there is some speculation that maybe there's some tomfoolery going on because eBay had been running tons of ads and hundreds of millions of dollars on Google AdWords, and and they cut back that spend because they were doing so well organically. And then what we saw a short time later is eBay's result got pushed into the ground. And so kind of some people in the industry were speculating that if you are, at the point where you're spending like hundreds of $1,000,000 of, money on running search ads, that, Google might give you a little bump up, kind of as a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Let's keep this a secret type of thing. But I think generally for normal users, none of us are going to be spending enough money where that could even be a possibility, right? With $100 budgets. But yeah, definitely some voodoo going on. But Karen Hager is going to be an awesome person to talk to about PPC as it relates to organic, and also different budgeting stuff as it occurs next week. So just to close out, I think that this is the last topic I got, and I think we're pretty good on time. So video going democratics. So video's been really interesting, especially over these last 10 years. And then again, more and more and more, over these most recent months, is like every iteration of a new iPhone or a new Android phone has made it easier and easier for just any user to be able to kind of shoot video. Before it was like, those big VHS cameras. Then the form factor got smaller, but you'd still have to spend, $2,000 or $3,000 for like a Canon 7D. But now it's like, that's just standard in any smartphone that you get, that you should be able to sell video or shoot video. And so as a result, what we're seeing is that there's a lower barrier to entry, so everyone can shoot video. So again, using that example of, filming at a rock concert, 10 years ago, that would only be the people that got the permits and had all the stuff. Now it's everyone that's got a phone, has it up, and they're uploading that content, as well. There's been some really, really good successes. And so this is Bill Gates right here. This is his screenshot from the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. So most of us that were, on social media probably saw this once or twice, or in my case, probably like 4 dozen different videos with people, dumping water on their heads. And yeah, exactly. Too many times, way, way, way too many times. But that's a really good kind of example of the convergence between video and social. Like as it becomes so much easier for people to be able to shoot videos, now it's like normal. To be able to shoot like a fun video of you dumping water on your head. Whereas, again, 5-10 years ago, you'd have to have the right software, you'd have to run it through a codec, you'd have to edit it in these $600 video editing programs, you'd have to mess and adjust, the lighting and the sound. And now it's like literally it's just you point and shoot. And as a result, social media campaigns that are focused on videos and engaging users for videos, super, super viral, especially over this past summer with these ALS videos. Yeah, you could totally get a GoPro. But again, GoPro is also another example of how video is super social, right? It's like the focus of a GoPro isn't necessarily just to keep, your own kind of secret GoPro videos that you don't share with anyone. It's like, you film it, attach it to a bird or a dog or, yourself while you're going surfing or kayaking or whatever it is. And then you're uploading that stuff online, right? And so again, even GoPro is kind of reinforcing that convergence of video and social and how those two are getting together. And even the way users are consuming stuff is different. I mean, before the expectation is that if someone was trying to get an idea across, there'd be these really long diatribes that you'd have to read 400 videos, and now it moves to videos. Some users do not like videos for things. Is it wise to have the transcript so it can be read? Yes. I.e. words being spoken, not yet picked up on. Yes, totally. And so I would say I agree 100%. I'm actually more of a reader because I can read way faster than someone can like talk to me. And so especially if I'm just trying to like learn something, I don't want to watch an 8-minute video. Like I'd rather just read through it. And especially if I'm scanning and just need one piece of information, it's really hard to skip around an 8-minute video if you just need one small answer. Whereas, Control F or reading a transcript makes it a lot easier to kind of jump to the info that you need. So from a user standpoint, yes, I would recommend doing transcripts with videos Also, from a search engine standpoint, you're spot on again. The search engines cannot understand video yet. Fast forward 10 years, I would not be surprised, if a search engine can like literally just have a bot watch a video, understand what the video is about, and then serve it back to the user. But right now that they can't, search engines really can only look at text and a little bit of image related stuff. And so as a best practice for SEOing videos, add transcripts. It's a great way to have videos shoot up in terms of relevancy, like on YouTube in particular. You know how you can add a description for a video, throw that transcript there, and you'll see that it'll start showing up as more relevant, for certain searches. Couple caveats: don't spam it. Make sure that the transcript actually reflects what people are saying. But that's a really good way to let the search engine know exactly what the video is about. And if they know exactly what the video is about, if someone's searching for something related to it, it's going to serve that higher. So I would definitely recommend using transcripts. If you're on YouTube, if you're using some other services, I would do it as well. So if you're just, embedding a video on a web page, right, and you have your own video player, you're not using a third-party service, on that same page, I would have the video up top, and then I'd have the full transcript down below, because as the search engine kind of searches through the content that's on that page, they're not going to be able to watch the video, but they'll understand everything that it's about because you're putting that right below there. Do they get picked up to the spiders? I thought it was embedded in the video itself. I think it's both. And so if you were to have a web page and you have the video and then the transcript is in HTML, the spiders can still understand that. If you're adding the transcript on the YouTube backend, it's still capturing that information. It's just it's like in the closed captioning file. So if you were to turn on closed captioning and it has the actual words, that closed captioning information is being pulled from some database. And so the spiders are still crawling text, just in different ways. One way they're kind of pulling from a database, another way they're actually spidering, the HTML that's on the page. But either way, there's still a kind of print version of what people are saying, whether it's uploaded on the back end or on the front end. And that's how the search engines are able to understand, what that content is. Couple more things. Video controlling national dialogue. So this video, in the last 3 weeks has been getting a lot of play. It's a woman walking through New York City, I think, for 10 hours, and then there's just various guys catcalling her. And in a pretty eye-opening video that's, been getting lots and lots and lots of plays. And it's interesting that as a spin-off of, just this one video, right? There's spin-off articles where there's, kind of dialogue of what's appropriate behavior, talking about different, issues related to respect and feminism and so forth. And all this, comes from just a video that's just shot by a small team of people. And in the same way, ALS is kind of the same thing too, right? Is it's changing the dialogue. Folks know what ALS. Oh yeah, the one with the guy is funny. Are you talking about the one where it's a white guy walking through New York City and everyone, instead of catcalling, essentially people just offer him jobs and stuff? It's a parody video. That's pretty funny. But yeah, right. And so again, that's the dialogue. It's just the dialogue is taking place now with both, print publications, right? New York Times, LA Times, etc., commenting on kind of larger social implications of the video. And then there's also dialogue going on between other videos. And so I've probably seen 6 other kind of parody videos. One was, walking through a video game and kind of seeing what other users would be typing or saying through the video game. And so again, it's kind of creating this dialogue that didn't really exist before. It was hard to make a response video and have it up within 35 minutes of watching something. Whereas now, because video Gamergate. Now, because video is so much more accessible for users, we see that the response and the dialogue like can blow up really, really, really quickly. And again, this also shows the social ties of videos as well, right? The reason why so many people have seen this video is because the video is shared through Twitter, Facebook, Google Plus. Clips are taken out on Vine. It's getting downloaded and re-uploaded on Vimeo and in a slew of other websites. And so, again, it's very interesting to see this kind of huge dialogue discussion all coming from this very small, microcosm of video. Interesting stuff. And that was the last slide that I had put together of some of the bigger changes, that I've been observing with social and video over, these last, I would say 3 months ish, since we were making our video for you guys as well. So I guess I just wanted to open it up for any more questions for folks. It seems like we're at an hour and a half, so I know that you guys are probably wanting a break pretty soon anyway. But if there's any other questions, I'm definitely more than open to answer them right now if you guys got any. Ads in strange places. Once in a while I see fake billboards on street level views of Google Maps. Yeah, definitely. People are getting smarter with that. I actually saw the Google car coming through St. Paul when I was driving to work a couple weeks ago. One of my friends also saw the Google car in Burlington, Vermont. So what he did is figure out what street the car was driving down, passed the car, sped up, parked his car, stood on top of his car, just so he could do the double thumbs up and like get the photograph. But savvy advertiser that's really responsive, that's gold, right? Is if you got a banner, you're seeing the Google car, run, that they're getting the street view, run over, just hold your giant banner up, right, for your business or your website URL or whatever. And as people are looking at, say, Times Square or some kind of maybe looking at the Walker Museum or something like that, big landmark that both tourists and locals, might be looking at the street view version of. If your ad's there, like, your money. Oh, graphics embedded. Oh, so not actually when they're taking the photo, but someone like afterwards embedding graphics into the map. I haven't seen that yet, but sounds really cool and really smart.
We got 2 questions, I think, that they want to ask on the mic. So, Travis, if you want to go ahead and open up your mic, or I can open your mic for you, either way. There you go.
Sure. So we use Salesforce at work, and their big push lately has been all about social. They put this thing out on phones and all that crap. They're doing more now with like the private social network, in that for your customers, they're bringing everybody in and encouraging basically our customers to interact with each other, to solve problems and do that kind of stuff, and so that it's closed. I'm wondering more on the marketing aspect of that. How do you go about pushing that to your customers as, hey, we're doing this, we're interacting with all of you at the same time, and we're dumping all of you in the same group? I guess there's a double-edged sword to what have you seen out there?
Mm-hmm. And so just to make sure I'm clear, so when are you saying like you would go to a business, like say you would come to FindLaw and you would say, hey, FindLaw, we're going to make you guys your own social network. So you're not on Facebook, Twitter, like we're going to build you your own FindLaw social network?
Yep, it's called Chatter is their thing. It's just like Twitter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yep, totally. Like an enterprise level social media thing. So we have the same thing here at FindLaw, and then by extension Thomson Reuters. So I don't know how many employees we have in total, like 20,000 employees. It's all just like a giant social media network that's exclusively for people that are a part of that business. For me, the big selling point, I mean, I'm really, really, really busy, and so I try not to use any social media at work, whether it's business or otherwise, just because it's like, I got kind of stuff to do. But the selling point of doing that is that like I guess from at least my perspective, is that you don't have to mix kind of business and pleasure. The last job that I had at dealer.com, we had like a closed Facebook only group, but that became kind of weird because it's like I didn't necessarily want to friend my boss's boss and have him know, what I do on the weekend. And also, I mean, I don't really care that much about what he does on the weekend, and so there's no point for me at least, and I feel like for a lot of other people in like, being Facebook friends with your boss's boss, right? But if you have a social network that's, constrained to just the business, like you don't bring in any of that extra stuff, right? And your mom's not posting to your business, chatter wall saying, you left your dirty underwear at my house or something like that, right? And so you can kind of sculpt a little bit more of a professional persona if you're exclusively limiting it to other users that are in, professional environment with you, whereas using, Twitter or Facebook, people use that more of a mode of like personal expression, and so it gets tough. And then you get into these weird situations of overshares, right? It's like when you become friends with someone down the hallway, and then all of a sudden you realize, like, on the weekend they have some like really, really weird hobby, or they're posting their like insane political diatribes at 2:00 in the morning, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, like relaxed normal Josh is like, has these crazy outlandish ideas that he posts at 3:00 in the morning. So like, keeping the social media to exclusively a business environment and keeping all the subject matter related to business, I think has huge advantages because it's going to make users more apt to engage with each other. And it also makes it so you have that professional line that never gets crossed. That's part of the reason why I don't really friend. Like I generally keep my Facebook to my actual like friends and family, in like a pretty limited group. But then the people that I have friended on our Thomson Reuters is a lot broader, and I'm probably only Facebook. Like the overlap is really small. There's probably 3 people that I'm friends with on our own proprietary social platform and like a broader social platform. So that's what I see as the major selling point is just like, it's the same as why, there's a little bit of a dress code in a lot of places. It's like, I don't necessarily want to see all my coworkers wearing, bikinis or whatever, every day at work. And it's the same thing on a social network, right? I don't necessarily need to see your Jamaica pics. I just want to know from a professional standpoint, let's just talk through certain issues and get the advantages of, being able to all put our heads together, come up with solutions, and not be kind of sidetracked by clicking through, someone's Jamaica photos or, their weird 2 a.m. diatribes on parking tickets or whatever it is,
Okay. I don't know if you've been watching my Facebook, so, it's not really a diatribe. It's just opinions. Okay, Brett, you had a question, and then I think we'll probably let Jonathan go here.
Sounds good. So quick question. In the lecture for this week, there was I think there's only one example of misuses of social networking, and that was posting too frequently or not frequently enough. Are there other things that like are pretty easy to do that you should avoid, or you should definitely do? Any tips to avoid misuse of social media?
Yeah, I would be, so one thing, okay, so I guess I'm gonna give the kind of political answer at first is I don't know if there are really that many things across the board that you can say is not a best practice, even in terms of posting. Like I would say posting not enough is just generally bad overall, just because again, it's like going to the party and just not participating. And so having a page that's dead for 2 years, like no one's going to follow that, no one's going to friend that, no one's going to engage with that. With posting too much, I think that it really depends on what your business is and what the quality of content is that you're pushing out. For instance, if you're ESPN and that Twitter feed, I think it's okay to be pushing stuff out all the time, right? Because people want to know sporting goods stores or scores, excuse me, for the games that are going on, right? And so getting that stuff constantly coming, that's going to be at least 30, 40 tweets per day. People are going to want to know who's getting drafted, and maybe you're live tweeting the entire NBA draft, right? So every 30 seconds you're going to say got chosen by team. And so in that sense, doing a lot of content makes sense. Or if you're the Oscars, right, live tweeting the Oscars, that might be an account that kind of goes into a little bit of a lull. But then on Oscar night, bump, 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 it's going on, nonstop, or any type of event like that. And so I guess just the first point is that, just really be thinking about like your audience and how you're creating value for them. Like there's no magic formula, like 8 tweets per day works for all businesses across the board. It's really you just kind of understanding your demo and like, am I actually pushing out real information? Some other things that I think are generally bad to do is just retweet, like either retweeting new information or just copy pasting other people's articles and putting it like on your own Facebook or your own like LinkedIn. These are not really adding any value there. You're kind of just acting as an echo chamber. And it can be a little tougher for people who want to interact with a brand, right? So if like brand X makes, soda, and they're like posting stuff from Pepsi and they're posting stuff from Coca-Cola, it's like you're not creating any content. You're not bringing a new interesting angle. There's no witty quip there. And so I don't really see that as really creating new value. And so I would just be mindful of like, what's the quality of stuff that you're pushing out on social media. I'd also generally want to stay on target. And so not the brand, but like, staying on the bullseye, I guess, with like what's interesting about your brand and what do people that care about your brand care about. And I would say, strategically to define that first and deviate from it very, very rarely. There have been some snafus where I forget what it was. I think it was the American Red Cross in Chicago, and I might be wrong. I forget. This is about a year ago. But there's a Twitter feed for American Red Cross, right? And so when they have different events, they're tweeting that. They got a new social media manager. That person started tweeting like their frustration with drivers in Chicago, saying Chicago's full of idiot drivers and stuff like that. Like people are not following the Red Cross to hear one employee's opinion on the way people drive. They follow the Red Cross because they want things related to disaster relief or fundraising or community outreach. And so as you're crafting content, like craft it for the actual listener. Don't go way off just because you think idea XYZ is really cool. Yeah, there you go. Exactly, the BuzzFeed articles strike again. And I can't click the link because it'll.
That was I'm sorry. That was the bakery in Arizona that got in a Facebook fight with their customers, and it ended up costing them their business. It was just an epic fight between them and their students, and Amy's Baking Company. Yeah,
do not do that. Move to private conversations. Just think the same way. You'd be having a conversation like, just think about it like you're at a party, right? If someone brings up some super heavy thing at a party, you're not going to have this like heavy argument discussion with someone in front of 400 people on a microphone. You're going to say, thanks for your concern or reaching out. Send me an email address. I'd be more than happy to email you about the issue. And then you can take that, very social conversation. You can make that, what it should be, right? Conversation between probably 2 people. Bad mouthing clients on the, any clients or customers like on social media generally is a bad practice. Again, I wouldn't say that across the board. There might be certain brands where it would be almost like funny or appropriate, depending on their brand positioning, to maybe make fun of or call out, certain people who might be making fun of your brand. But like, you'll never see Delta, or I don't want to say never, but you probably won't see Delta do that, right? Like, Delta's not going to be like, you know what, it's actually your fault. This flight is so horrible, right? Their response is just, thanks for your concern. Please send an email to this address. And then they move that conversation off the social media network. And so that's definitely kind of, I guess the bad thing to do is have it in public. And then the good thing to do is, move that stuff to email or move it to a direct message or something where you're not airing out your dirty laundry in front of a lot of people. And then anything really like related to dirty laundry. So any kind of like ongoing, maybe political differences, maybe between different groups within a existing organization, like don't air that stuff out, make all that stuff private. Just like you would approach, any kind of, conversation. As there's certain things it's okay to say at the, dinner table, and there's certain things that you kind of want to go into a separate room and just, hash it out with the certain individual that might have an issue. Let me think real quick of just some other content, other things that might be, things you would really, really want to stay away from on social media. Yeah, I mean, I think that those are, I mean, just as a guiding principle, it's like, just be thinking like you're at a party. Like most of the things that you would do or would be appropriate in a large group setting, a lot of times it's okay to do on social media. If it's not, don't do it there. Also, don't give complete social media access to someone who's like 16-year-olds old just because they have a cell phone, or even someone who's kind of like your typical millennial social media person. Like a lot of companies think just because someone is a little bit younger and they have a cell phone and they have 1,000 Facebook followers or Facebook friends that they're qualified to run a social media campaign, with no real guiding strategy, just with the direction of get us more followers and post a bunch of stuff. Like that is epic failure waiting to happen. Not to say that that demographic can't do something, but you really want to have a clear kind of strategy, a clear brand message, a clear brand tone, understanding of your target demo, and just be crafting your content, your frequency, the way you communicate. All that stuff should be based on some sort of strategy. Overall, because if you just let someone new to the role just kind of do whatever they want, just be like, just tweet about stuff, a lot of the times that's going to result in an epic fail.
All right, thank you, Jonathan. I've got this was another excellent example of you guys coming in and really helping us out in ways that we couldn't. I appreciate the time, the energy, effort, and the knowledge that you've brought to us. For those of you that are students in the class, I got a couple of housekeeping things. The lab for this day is, if you don't already have a Hootsuite account, set up a Hootsuite account for your own social media so you're familiar with the aggregators. And if you guys should have gotten an email from me about a week ago or so talking about the STEM Expo. If anybody is interested in using this project for the STEM Expo, it was done last year and it was worked out really good as like a poster presentation kind of thing. Contact me in the next day or two if you want to be involved with that STEM Expo. Jonathan, I will be in touch with you about the things that we were talking about earlier. And cool. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And we'll talk to you soon.
Great. So right. I'll pass the privileges. Should I give it back to you, Kevin?
Don't worry about it. I can take control of it at any time. I own the session. So okay. All we're going to sort of do, you'll notice people are starting to disappear already. So if anybody has any questions of me, go ahead and ask away. If not, I'll shut down the recording and we'll close this off.
Cool.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Talk to you guys later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Anybody got anything for me? Nope, nope. Watching everybody go away. All right, I'm going to shut it down. Talk to you guys next week.